the first time in history, according to a former senior agent, that a Secret Service sniper killed a would-be assassin.
And Republicans pressing for answers on how the Secret Service failed to secure the building where 20-year-old Thomas Matthew Crooks fired from a rooftop less than 150 yards away from the Trump rally in Butler, Pennsylvania.
The shocking assassination attempt on former President Donald Trump by Thomas Matthew Crooks left the nation stunned. However, beyond the immediate shock and outrage, the legal ramifications for Thomas's father may hold significant implications for future cases. Let's have a look at the case of Matthew Crooks, and if he can be legally accountable for his son's actions.
This boy was not a menace to society. This boy was not an issue at all.
Thomas Matthew Crooks was born to Matthew and Mary Crooks on September 20th, 2003. He grew up in Bethel Park, Pennsylvania, a middle-class neighborhood. Matthew and Mary Crooks were licensed professional counselors, providing a stable environment for their son. As a teenager, Thomas attended Bethel Park High School, where he excelled in his studies.
Never was an issue. Thomas was a very quiet young man, intelligent. You know, he took AP courses, he took an honors class, he took college prep courses.
While Thomas was academically gifted, he had a difficult social journey. According to his classmates, he was often the subject of bullying due to what his classmates perceived as unusual behavior. Thomas's shyness, body odor, and tendency to wear camouflage and hunting outfits to school made him a subject of ridicule. However, Thomas's school records state he was never the aggressor in any disciplinary incidents.
A kid that was always alone, he was always bullied every day.
Former classmates say that he was bullied a lot in school.
Despite his struggles, Thomas had many passions, including chess, which he enjoyed competitively and socially. Additionally, he deeply loved video games and spent countless hours engrossed in virtual worlds. Another area in which Thomas excelled was his understanding of computers. According to some accounts, Thomas tried out for Bethel Park High School's rifle team, but failed to make the cut due to his poor aim. But the Bethel Park School District has since clarified that they have no record of Thomas ever trying out for the team. However, Thomas joined the Clareton Sportsman's Club around 2023. State voting records show that Thomas Crooks was a registered Republican. Still, in 2021, he donated $15 to Act Blue, a liberal campaign. According to the BBC, the attack was not the result of a last-minute idea, but rather the culmination of a meticulously planned operation. The FBI has stated that July 6, 2024, marked the inception of Thomas Crooks' deadly plan. Thomas's initial step was to register to attend former President Donald Trump's rally in Butler, Pennsylvania. The FBI has stated that Thomas Crooks carried out an internet search on July 6th, specifically researching the distance Lee Harvey Oswald was from President John F. Kennedy when he assassinated JFK on November 22, 1963 in Dallas, Texas. From July 6th to July 13th, Thomas Crooks' search history revealed a strong focus on Donald Trump and his candidacy. In contradiction to initial speculations, the FBI has concluded that Thomas Crooks did not receive any outside help in carrying out this deadly attack. During their investigation into Thomas Crooks' activities before the shooting on July 13th, the FBI learned that Thomas had performed surveillance, having flown a drone 200 yards from the stage in Butler, Pennsylvania, 2 hours before Donald Trump's rally began. Further investigation revealed that Thomas had purchased an AR-15 style rifle from his father, Matthew, at some point before July 13th. This type of weapon had a collapsible stock, which made it easy to conceal. On July 12, 2024, Thomas Crooks made a trip to the local gun club, where he was a member. At the gun club, Thomas test-fired his weapon. Thomas had recently purchased over 50 rounds of ammunition and a ladder, which he would utilize the following day at the Donald Trump rally.
The shooting, Thomas Crooks bought ammunition at Allegheny Arms, a gun store in this strip mall about a mile from his house. The morning of the shooting, officials say Crooks also went to Home Depot to buy a stepladder.
Thomas had requested the day off from his job at a nursing home on July 13th, telling his boss that he had something to do. However, he assured his coworkers that he would return on July 14th. As the evening approached on July 13th, Thomas's parents, Matthew and Mary, became concerned about their son's whereabouts. They reported him missing to the police, expressing concern for his well-being. Little did they know their son was preparing to carry out a heinous act that very night.
Well, the parents of Donald Trump's would-be assassin Thomas Matthew Crooks called police hours before he opened fire at a campaign rally over the weekend.
Meanwhile, Thomas Crooks arrived at the Donald Trump rally armed with a recently purchased AR-15 style rifle. He had meticulously planned the attack, using a ladder to climb atop a building used as a police officer staging area. With a clear view of the rally below, Thomas was ready to move. As Donald Trump addressed the crowd, Thomas pulled the trigger. The crowd, unaware of the impending danger, initially mistook the sound of the gunfire as fireworks. However, it quickly became apparent that this was no celebration. One of the shots struck Donald Trump in his right ear. This heinous act left a 50-year-old audience member, Corey Comparator, dead instantly. Amidst the chaos, a member of the Secret Service counter team fatally shot Thomas Crooks. Despite facing seemingly insurmountable odds, Thomas Crooks managed to pull off a daring assassination attempt in Butler, Pennsylvania. The House Homeland Security Committee has shed light on a series of security lapses that directly contributed to the shocking incident. The Butler, Pennsylvania venue, where the Donald Trump rally was held on July 13th, had multiple layers of security in place to ensure the safety of the participants and attendees. Officers from the Pennsylvania State Police patrolled the outside of the venue, while the Secret Service agents guarded the inner perimeter. An anti-sniper team was also stationed on the roof behind the stage, watching the area. However, on the day of the event, there was confusion regarding the responsibilities of the various security agencies involved. Kimberly Cheadle, who served as the director of the Federal Bureau of Investigation, or FBI, until she stepped down from her duties several days after the shooting occurred, admitted that she could not provide a definitive answer as to why there was no one stationed on the roof during the rally. During a hearing with the House of Representatives Oversight Committee, Cheadle accepted that her agents were informed about Thomas Crooks at least twice before Crooks began firing his gunshots. However, she clarified that the Secret Service agents were only made aware of the seriousness of the threat once the shooting had started. According to the New York Post, there may have been underlying mental issues at play in Thomas Crooks' actions leading up to the assassination attempt. Speculation suggests that Crooks may have been struggling with a form of depression, although there are no medical records available to confirm whether he ever sought medical treatment for his mental health. However, agents conducting searches after the shooting discovered evidence of searches for major depressive disorder. Major depressive disorder is a mood disorder characterized by a persistent feeling of sadness and loss of interest. It affects how people think, feel, and behave, leading to physical and emotional problems. People with major depressive disorder often experience symptoms such as fatigue, changes in appetite, difficulty concentrating, and low self-worth. FBI Director Christopher Wray disclosed during a press briefing that inside Thomas Crooks' residence in Pennsylvania, authorities discovered over a dozen firearms. Christopher Wray described Crooks as a fairly avid shooting enthusiast. This revelation has sparked questions about the role of Thomas Crooks' father, Matthew, in the attack. In the aftermath of the incident, people are now questioning who can be held accountable for this heinous crime. Since the Secret Service killed the shooter, one name that has come up often is Matthew, the father of Thomas Crooks.
Why would your son want to kill the president?
Back off!
No comment.
No comment!
Were there any warning signs, Matthew?
No comment.
Questions have arisen regarding Matthew Crooks' failure to secure the firearms in his home and his decision to sell his son the weapon used in the shooting. These developments come amidst the circulation of rumors that Thomas may have struggled with mental health. Recently, Matthew Crooks and his wife Mary were sighted outside shopping for the first time since their son was named as the shooter at the Donald Trump rally. Matthew told Fox News Digital that he would not be stating without seeking the advice of his legal counsel. He said that he and his wife were focused on taking care of themselves and requested that they be granted space at this time. Matthew Crooks could be held responsible for providing Thomas with the weapon he used to commit the assassination attempt based on what happened to Jennifer and James Crumbley. Jennifer and James Crumbley on charges of involuntary manslaughter. The Crumbleys, sentenced to 10 to 15 years in prison, may have set a precedent for other individuals involved in similar circumstances. Mass shootings, defined as incidents where 4 or more individuals are shot or killed, have become all too common in the United States.
Their son is accused of killing 4 students during a school rampage in Michigan last November, and the parents are facing their own serious charges of manslaughter for allegedly allowing him access to a gun.
One such tragic event occurred at Oxford High School on November 30th, 2021, when 15-year-old Ethan Crumbley opened fire, killing 4 students and injuring 7 others. This event not only left a community in shock, but also raised questions about the involvement of the shooter's parents. Ethan Crumbley, a 15-year-old student, perpetrated the mass shooting that resulted in the deaths of 4 fellow students and injured 7 others. In the aftermath of the incident, the legal arguments surrounding parental responsibility in securing firearms and addressing mental health issues when their children are mass shooters have gained significant attention. While the circumstances surrounding their shootings were different, there are several similarities between Thomas Crooks and Ethan Crumbley.
Surveillance video captures the 15-year-old killer practicing with the 9mm handgun that his parents gave him for Christmas.
The shooting, Thomas Crooks bought ammunition at Allegheny Arms, a gun store in this strip mall about a mile from his house.
Thomas and Ethan were young white men, aged 20 and 15 respectively at the time of their shootings. Further, they had an interest in weapons, and both had access to firearms that their parents had purchased for them. Additionally, both Thomas and Ethan exhibited a fascination with weapons. They seemed to have a fascination with firearms and amassed a collection of weapons. It is possible Thomas and Ethan's interest in guns and knives fueled their desire to cause harm to others. Furthermore, both Thomas and Ethan had a history of being bullied in high school. They were considered outcasts and loners, struggling to fit in and find a sense of belonging among their peers. This feeling of isolation may have contributed to Thomas and Ethan's troubled mental state and the eventual acts of violence they committed. At this moment, it is unsure if Matthew Crooks will face charges for selling Thomas the gun Thomas used to try to assassinate former President Trump, as the investigation is still ongoing. However, it is important to note that if found guilty, Matthew Crooks could potentially face similar charges as those faced by Jennifer and Jamie Crumbley, who were recently convicted of giving their son Ethan the gun he used in a mass shooting. The convictions of Jennifer and Jamie Crumbley, who received 10 to 15-year sentences, could provide a precedent for the potential charges against Matthew Crooks. However, it is important to note that speculation surrounding Matthew Crooks' potential sentence remains just that, speculation.
They asked for mercy, but were given the max, 10 to 15 years in prison for involuntary manslaughter. It's the first time in history that parents of a mass shooter have been held criminally responsible for their son's crimes.
Matthew Crooks could potentially argue that he is not culpable for the actions of his son Thomas, who used the AR-15 at the rally on July 13, and may employ several legal arguments to defend himself against these allegations. For example, Matthew could argue that he had no prior knowledge or intention of Thomas using the gun for unlawful purposes. Additionally, he could say that he had no control over his son's actions or motives. Mass shootings have become a tragic and distressing reality in today's society, and parents must educate their children about the issue and instill values that promote safety and prevention.
While you were running away from your son and your responsibilities, I was forced to do the worst possible thing a parent could do. I was forced to say goodbye to my medicine.
Research suggests that parents who demonstrate a lack of supervision, neglect, or abuse may have a greater likelihood of their children engaging in harmful or violent behavior. When parents do not provide a stable and nurturing environment, it can contribute to the development of violent thoughts and actions. The influence of the media on children's behavior cannot be underestimated. Exposure to violent and aggressive behaviors in movies, video games, and other forms of media can desensitize children to the consequences of their actions. Parents who fail to monitor and control their children's media consumption may be inadvertently exposing them to content that influences them to adopt violent behaviors. Access to firearms is another significant factor contributing to mass shootings. According to a study by the gun control advocacy group Everytown for Gun Safety, 80% of school shootings since 2013 were committed by people who had access to firearms in their own homes. Parents who don't take firearm safety seriously or educate their children about responsible gun ownership may inadvertently create an environment conducive to acts of violence. in light of the assassination attempt on former President Donald Trump and the potential charges against the shooter's father. You won't want to miss these teen school shooters receiving life.